The world around us is changing at a faster rate than ever before. This is due to several factors that involve both the physical landscape and the human world. Examples of some of these geographical complexities involve anthropogenic climate change and the ecological crisis, globalization and the increasing spread of ideas through technology, advancements, and social media. Also factors that affect both the human and physical world, such as sustainable development that protects the environment while also ensuring equal development and minimizing inequalities. Conducting an interview with Kerry Burton allowed us to understand how the role of geography is critical in aiding these changes, which allowed us to focus on a certain aspect of sustainable development, plastic-free communities. This allowed us to explore how human geographers can get involved alongside other disciplines and academics in order to promote and sustain a just, equitable and diverse circular economy, whilst also aiding the solution to sustainable consumption. From the interview and reading, we are focused on 3 areas where human geography has been important in the changing world. These include the circular economy for plastics, the implementation of strategies at a range of scales to deal with plastic consumption, and COVID-19's impact on plastic consumption.
The analysis of the economy and economic systems has become increasingly important in the management of the developing world and within the discipline of human geography. Some of the most influential geographers such as Doreen Massey, Richard Hartshorne and David Harvey have combined economics and geography in their research in the creation of what is now known as economic geographies. Donor economics is an example of how human geography plays a crucial role within the developing world. Geography's analysis of space and contested landscapes contributes to the creation of a more sustainable economy and therefore world. It is a framework for sustainable development that combines both planetary and social boundaries in its theory. This model is seen as a global compass to help guide humanity through the 21st century. Foundations such as Ellen MacArthur are one way that circular systems can be promoted and accelerated. Providing insight for policymakers, teaching and education for civil society, and tools and guidance for businesses, the Foundation is able to provide resources to all levels of society. In relation to plastic, they have set out key principles that will ensure materials stay in circulation, even predicting that if these practices are adopted by 2040, we could reduce the annual volume of plastics entering the ocean by 80% and reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. Kerry Burton's paper, Cultivating Just, Equitable and Diverse Circular Economies Through Plastic-Free Communities, written in 2022, was extremely relevant to modern-day understandings of geography in a changing world. She highlights how the circular economy offers a pathway for lowering carbon emissions and removes the need for virgin materials such as plastic. Circular approaches can reduce waste pollution, create spaces with more equitable resource distribution, and sustain sharing and repairing practices. Burton writes, "Plastic is a matter of justice. The overwhelming production of single-use plastics has created widespread and systemic issues. My own research found that the UK alone exports 2/3 of its waste plastic, meaning that plastic pollution and waste are felt hardest in the poorest nations." She also highlighted the intervention of bottom-up approaches, showing the role that civil society can play in the reduction of plastics, as well as policymakers and governments. In contrast, social and environmental justice issues are often absent from the top-down approaches that have seemed to have taken precedence up until now. In her place-based approach, matters of equality and justice can be addressed from the root, using people's attachment to place as a means of driving more sustainable practices that keep products, specifically plastic products, in circulation for longer. She also gives focus to the role of digital geographies in the changing world and how the media has become implicated within geography. Quoting, "TV media isn't one-dimensional anymore. People have conversations with it and get involved. This has been really influential. The current age of digital activism has meant that the conversation surrounding plastics now takes place through the virtual and is spread via these systems." Burton uses the example of Surfers Against Sewage and how they use social media campaigns to be able to influence and educate their audience.
Geography isn't the only subject that is core to tackling the changing world, but it certainly has a central role to play. When looking at plastic-free communities, many disciplines focus on the chemistry behind the plastic, ecotoxicology or impacts on the marine ecosystem. Geography, however, offers the opportunity to consider how people can change their actions to help change how places and spaces consume plastic through a range of initiatives. Geographers work at a range of scales, from the individual to the international, and Burton's work very much demonstrates the role of geography in implementing appropriate scale-based initiatives to solve global issues. On a more local scale, Burton discusses place-based organising and its potential in achieving a more socially just and economically diverse circular economy due to it being more context-sensitive than large-scale operations. These strategies often involve citizens in decision-making and consist of initiatives that repair, share and reuse materials such as plastic with the Surfers Against Sewage. The role of human geography in this case is to consider which scale operation would have the most impact on sustainable consumption, local place-based initiatives or governmental ones. Although Burton's paper focuses on the place-based initiatives, human geography is also central to large-scale operations which are aimed at the consumption of plastics. The UK have also adopted the idea of the circular economy and recognise the need to change how we consume plastic. This model is largely based on the 2019 EU Directive, which is a multidisciplinary report that outlines how EU nations should change their approach towards plastic. And although the UK is no longer a member of the EU, many of these suggestions are still held. These examples demonstrate the role of geographers in researching and implementing appropriate scale-based schemes to solve global complexities such as the consumption of plastic.
A second global complexity we discussed with Carrie was plastic consumption throughout COVID-19 and the importance of geography in the pandemic. Over the course of the global pandemic, the use of single-use plastics to facilitate COVID testing, vaccinations and to prevent the spread of disease in the form of PPE and masks have greatly increased. EU member states imported 170,000 tonnes of face masks from the rest of the world over the business-as-usual level, and 105,000 tonnes of single-use plastic gloves over the business-as-usual level were imported from April to September 2020, representing an 80% increase for the 27 EU member states for gloves. This increase creates more problems for geographers. A survey in July 2020 revealed that 5% of people in France, over 2 million people, said that they throw away their masks onto public roads, which leads to strong environmental issues such as destruction of wildlife, the ingestion of soft and flexible plastics by fish and birds, and entanglement of animals and products, which has led to face masks and gloves now being included as items to report in marine litter monitoring. This means that going forward into the post-COVID world, geographers will have a key role in shaping the rehabilitation of the world, as they will have the answers on how to deal with such issues of environmental damage of single-use plastics. The role of geography will have been changed by the changing of consumer habits during the pandemic. For example, the closure of restaurants and retail shops has led to an increase in takeaway food and e-commerce, with an estimated additional 11,400 to 17,600 tonnes of plastic packaging used by the e-commerce sector from March to September 2020, further showing how geographers will have to be used in the changing world to understand the problem of facing humanity. As a result of the increased consumption of face masks in Europe, 2.4 to 5.7 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent were emitted over the business-as-usual levels from April to September 2020, with emissions increasing after that period. This means that geography's role in the changing world remains much the same as it is today, with a focus on trying to adapt the world for climate change, and that has now been exacerbated by COVID. The increase in e-commerce and takeaway delivery has also caused an increase in emissions, with DHL, for example, increasing parcel deliveries by 15%, 1.8 billion parcels in 2020. This further shows how geographers' role in the world will continue to change and will continue to be an environmental, emissions and climate-based one, with finding new green solutions to existing problems at the forefront of their work, with examples such as hospitals recycling PPE, plastic innovation and greener delivery being pushed as ideas by geographers.
Further readings on how plastics will shape geography's role in the changing world suggest a focus on the innovation of plastic production, usage and disposal to make it more sustainable through a range of initiatives. A 2017 United Nations report uncovered how currently only 9% of plastic is recyclable, with 12% being incinerated and the other 79% ending up in landfill sites. This led to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres regarding plastic with an attitude of do not use that cannot be reused on World Government Day. Filatov, in his paper, explains that geographic research and reports have sparked change in many countries, with the UK introducing monetary fees and taxes such as the 5p plastic bag tax to reduce single-use plastics, and many other nations have followed suit. UN analysis in more than 60 countries shows how prohibitions on products such as styrofoam and plastic bags has been very effective. However, more still needs to be done. The article goes on to show how geographers have inspired scientists to create plastic alternatives such as a Q-Milk sperm that creates casein fibres from waste milk. Overall, the article demonstrates the integral role geographers play in informing and guiding those who can innovate and cause change to one of the most pressing global issues today.
From the interview, drawing inspiration from the paper and wider research, it is clear that human geography plays an integral part in the management of our developing world. We chose to focus in on the economy, specifically the circular economy, how geography implements scales, and the importance of geography during COVID-19, all of which were rooted in Carrie Burton's article on cultivating plastic-free communities. As Carrie said in our interview, geography does play an important role in the developing world. Its interdisciplinary approach is vital in addressing the issues that exist within our changing world.